Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you and to share our preliminary outcome from the Arcadia project. Thank you, Yado, for the introduction. Yado is actually one of the, if not the father of the of Arcadia project. So just for you, it's going to be boring stuff. At least the first part, but probably not the second and the third one. And this is how I'm structured my input. Today, I'm going to focus on one of the model regions, which is the region I'm responsible for. And it makes sense, in my opinion, because today this General Assembly is located in this region, which is Lower Austria, the region surrounding Vienna. So I think it's going to be, I hope it's going to be also interesting from this side of point of view. The Arcadia project, Yaro has already given some key facts of this large project, transformative climate resilience by nature-based solutions in the continental biogeographical region. This is the complete name of the project, and it's a 4.5-year project with more than 40 partners, mostly of them actually public bodies from the regions, but also research institutions and even a couple of companies. And from 9 different countries and regions, which is again the core, or perhaps the main difference with if I compare with Naturance, we have a regional focus, perhaps similarly to Invest for Nature, or more similar, and yeah, so entire budget of actually almost 20 million euro. These are, in a nutshell, the 4 goals, objectives of the project. We want to galvanize transformative adaptation using nature-based solutions by assisting regions and towns and communities. And these assistance should be based on, of course, knowledge, solid knowledge, up-to-date, evidence-based, and so that we can provide guidance and tools and services to these regions, to the selected regions. And of course, by doing so, we want to increase the capability, or to build capabilities to scale up the measures that we're developing in those regions, and of course take into account financial tools, but also policy instruments, planning issues, which are quite important. This is this project structure, but please don't panic, because I'm not going to explain you the main project structure. I'm just focusing on these central parts surrounded by this kind of orange frame, because this is somehow the core of the project. We have again these regions, and in these each of these regions is supposed to develop, or on the basis on the developed vision, they are supposed to develop or to execute at least 3 different so-called co-innovation labs, which is selecting pilot projects, small pilot projects between 9 and 12 months of duration, and on the basis of the outcome from these at least 3 labs, they are supposed to conduct the so-called, what we called upscaling process from the identified local solutions into the up to the regional level, or also an horizontal level through further municipalities. Model regions, fellow regions, 2 different categories, which is the typical approach from many European projects. You have the list of the 5 model regions in Italy, in Austria, in Croatia, and Denmark, and Sweden, and 3 fellow regions in Bulgaria, in Slovenia, and in Romania. And again, just a few details on these regional activities. Again, in the end, it has the 5 model regions have or are right now on their way on developing the co-innovation laboratories, and in which they are supposed to first identify, of course, the possible potential MBS, which would make sense in the particular context. And then, of course, or by doing, by actually involving local stakeholders, different stakeholders, the usual suspects, decision makers, but also population, scientists, of course, and not just consulting them, but also engaging them. In each region, different open science-related exercises should take place, so-called climathons, for instance, not just them. And in addition, or in parallel to these co-innovation labs, a process of matching or twinning model and fellow regions is also taking place. We started actually 1 or 2 months ago with this project, with this process, or with this phase. And yeah, the fellow regions are supposed to engage with model regions and to get transfer and to organize joint activities so that they can try to identify the potential MBS for them for them too. And not least, finally, a comparative analysis is supposed to be conducted actually by some of your colleagues from the CMCC, which are guiding us all model and fellow regions throughout this central project phase I highlighted in the other slide. This was just the main description of the project, and now I'm going to focus on one of the 5 model regions, as I announced before, Lower Austria. So, because of course I am particularly or better positioned to explain you what do we strive for, and what has happened so far, and what should happen, and particularly what has happened so far. So we, at the very beginning of the project, we established our own challenge, and we want to establish a set of nature-based solutions as a preferred, as a standard measure when it comes to climate resilience in this case in Lower Austria, which is a big challenge, which is of course something that it goes far beyond the lifetime of these projects, because we need to deal with the way the region is actually dealing with climate change issues and climate change adaptation. And because it's so complex, we have decided to focus on 3 areas of work. Like, for instance, we're not dealing with flood measures along the Danube or major rivers. It is out of the scope of our region, in this project in our region, although it's of course a major issue in climate change adaptation. But we rather focus on green, blue, and blue infrastructures, both in rural and urban environments, on the one hand, also on nature-based solutions for resilient agricultural landscapes, and also perhaps even more specific in nature-based solutions on doing urban, not urban, but business area renewal. And the reason why we focus on these topics, it is much related to the partnership, of course. So the Office of the Lower Austrian Federal Government coordinates this the regional partnership, and we get the assistance of the Geosphere Austria, which is the National Service for Geology, Geophysics, Climatology, and Meteorology. And they, of course, they are our scientific partner, but also, again, assisting us in the work package coordination. And then we have 4 regional partners working hand in hand with out there with the stakeholders. The first one is the Agricultural District Authority. And then we have the regional business agency, EcoPlus, Ecological Gardening, Natur im Garten, which is an organization, a public organization or a private organization owned by the government, working very close to municipalities in educational and advisory works, and not least the Lower Austrian Energy and Environmental Agency. All of these 4 partners, again, work very close, and they definitely practice oriented. So bearing in mind our vision and the main focus and the partnership, we decided to select 3 areas for 3 co-innovation labs. These are the areas you see on this small map. You see the entire territory of Lower Austria, and inside Lower Austria, you see also the city of Vienna. And so that you can orientate yourselves. And the 3 labs correspond to 3 different regions and also to 3 different topics. The first one at the center of the region, in the area called Wagram, is devoted to MBS in predominantly rural areas because of quite a countryside. And then lab number 2 is mainly focused on the municipality of Wolkersdorf, in which the EcoPlus, the business agency, owns one of their business parks. And so this is the focus of the second lab. And the third lab on the western parts of the region in the town of Amstetten is this decidedly more on urban issues, and actually very much focused on heat and urban heat. So 3 different labs running roughly in parallel, but for the interest of time, I'm going to focus on just one further information. Each one of these is coordinated. Each one of the labs is coordinated by one of our partners. You see the logos here. And what I'm doing now is to focus exclusively on the first and number 1, for the simple reason is that this one is the one which is much more advanced, because it started already in N24, and it's at least officially finishing in a couple of months. The Wagram lab, again, is located in a quite rural area and is devoted to the topic too much and too little water. What happened when there is extreme events, floodings, and what happens when the opposite happens with drought. So we want to, all in all, to co-develop and test solutions that go beyond the strict local perspective, and that is, of course, a major challenge. We are much focused on agricultural spaces, but we don't forget that, of course, in rural areas, there's also a settlement network with small villages, and we want to see what happens when the flood comes to the small villages. But so mainly these are the 4 on the right side, the 4 actually nature-based solutions we want to focus in. On the one hand, agricultural land use planning tools, what we call in German Flurplanung, which is executed and conducted by the Agricultural District Authority, which who is the one coordinating the work, the lab. Then we want to focus on habitat network by so-called multi-use hedges, not just windbreak hedges, but multi-use hedges. Perhaps I can explain afterwards what's the difference. But it has very much to do with biological and biodiversity corridors, agroforestry measures. Then perhaps the secondary importance within our lab is strengthening food sovereignty measures, like, for instance, so-called market gardening, and also, again, related to much urban, even when it's small villages, but implementing greening and unsealing measures within the settlements. So in practical terms, we do two different kinds of activities. The one with more analytical character, we conduct climate risk analysis and climate risk assessment. In this case, in the region of or the area of Bagram, we identified three main hazards: heat waves, drought, and extreme rainfall events. And out of it, and from a workshop we conducted on site, the colleagues from Geosphere Austria concluded that the main risk is in the region soil erosion. And on the other hand, we conduct also, so to speak, hands-on activities of different nature. We co-developed blue-green infrastructure with local decision makers. We are fortunate enough that the ABB has an own budget, not project linked, but its own budget to actually execute these measures. So this is perhaps a difference, which was originally not foreseen for the project. Actually, there is no budget for implementing measures. We are not an Interreg project, for instance. So this is just personal costs covered, but the ABB has a budget for conduct, which is actually mainly their daily business. And in parallel, we were grasping lessons learned by conducting interviews with stakeholders, with farmers, with owners, of course, with landowners, and also workshops within municipality. They are mainly conducted by the other partner, ecological gardening, focused on urban issues and greening and unsealing measures in the urban context, and also networking activities. We have, for instance, you see the picture of our colleagues from the Swedish region, the southernmost region of Skåne. They visited us in March, and we're going to visit them in fall. And they were very excited to be, not just to hold a meeting like right now we're holding in this room, but also going outside to the terrain and just talking to the farmers and people we are engaged with. So the last part of my presentation is perhaps not just much adjusted to what is the project about and what are the specific activities, but much more personal and therefore subjective reflection from my side. And at this point, it's important to bear in mind that these are just thoughts from my side. So, but I thought, okay, if I deal with a project deeply related to the insurance sector, and of course, this question, where's the money, is just the recurring one that is always coming. So please, these are just personal thoughts by far away from being from an expert, but something who's learning from the project and with the project. But I think that one fact that I have to say, or I can say, is that climate change adaptation in Lower Austria, but I think is generally speaking for entire Austria, relies, as we actually have seen by Michael's input, on strongly subsidy and public money scheme, and fueled by federal funds. But we know that we are, since at least 2 years, in economic recession in Austria. And money is, of course, a big issue when it comes to national budget, but also at municipality level. Everything I talk to our partners, or even to someone from municipality, raises the same issue. Municipalities don't have money, and they need to cut, and they need to be very selective with the measures they want to develop. So it's a kind of bitter taste when you approach them and you see, okay, we have a big EU project, but there is money to only develop that measures, and we'll see after the project. Anyways, what I ask myself is yeah, how long or how strong this public subsidy scheme in Austria can last, and of course, very much related to this question, the next one arises, which is what should be the role of complementary or perhaps even alternative funding, which is the question. You are busy also too with this one, and yeah. In this case, unfortunately, I have probably no new thoughts that I can contribute apart from the usual suspects. We know, everyone knows the payment for ecosystem services, green bonds, sustainability bonds, and yeah. My personal thought is that, of course, private money is needed, but to mobilize them, I think you probably need to focus more in the long term. And we, not just for them, this is for everyone, we need to rethought and rethink that nature-based solutions is a long-term story, and they need time and they need space. So yeah, and here I'm open for conversations and for learning, particularly from you. And in the meantime, I just wanted to highlight what one of my colleagues from the okay, you lost the okay. One of my colleagues from the agricultural district authority always said, we're working with the coalition of the willing, with a couple of enthusiasts that are working, of course, on their own area, not just physically but also thematically speaking. And they try to do things differently. And I could just provide some examples from the first lab if we have time for this. And the question arising here is, yeah, I don't know to what extent they are in the position to put at their disposal the private funding, so to speak, to go further and to upscale, which is actually again the ultimate goal of this project. And with this, this is the end of my input, and thanks a lot for your attention, and look forward to the discussion.